You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
US Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why US Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from US Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/builtforus to get started.
School is back, and Dick's Sporting Goods has what you need to win your year. We've got everything from cleats to Sambas, dunks, and more. Plus, the hottest looks from Nike, Jordan, and Adidas. Find your first day fits in-store or online at dicks.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, today is always either a really great day or a really, why are we even bothering to do this kind of day? Today, fortunately, it's a great day. The Packers had a fantastic week in the preseason against the Baltimore Ravens. The practices went really well. The game went really well. So we're going to go ahead and review the Green Bay Packers, look at some of the grades. This is our last look at the team, sort of the backups and whatnot. Before, we got to start working on the cutdowns. So this will give us our final little sneak peek, and then, we go about our business. So, again, a lot to like in this game, but not everything was fantastic. So we'll start off with the offense. If I didn't say it, we're going through the PFF grades today. But we're going to start off with the offense. There was actually the highs are really high. There's a good amount of average, but there was a decent amount of not super great. We know the quarterbacks are bad. So it may not come as a surprise. I guess I didn't know it'd be this bad. It might not come as a surprise. The two worst graded players were the quarterbacks. Sean Clifford, 42.7. Michael Pratt graded at a 42. The interception obviously dropped him to the bottom. The next lowest is a guy that really does not need to be where he is. In other words, it's not good for him. Grant DeBose, 45.8. Tight end Joel Wilson, another guy fighting for a spot, 46.4. Messiah Swinson, 50.9. Julian Hicks, 52.9. Ellis Merriweather, 55-ish. Jalen Wayne, 55. Donovan Jennings, 55. Dimitri Stanley, 55. And Emmanuel Wilson with a 58.7. So again, several guys that actually graded out somewhat poorly. On the positive side, we've got, let's round a little bit, there are 8 of them. Luke Tenuta, 69. Samori Toure, 69. Luke Tenuta, 71. Kadeem Telfort, 72. Really good for those guys, especially Telfort, who the Packers seem to like. Henry Pearson doing his best to stay on the roster this time with a 76. Travis Glover, 76.5. Caleb Jones, 79. Nate McCrary, I just feel so bad. You look at Henry Pearson, it's like, I did good, coach. And it's like, yeah, but I don't think it's going to work. And same with Nate McCrary. I hope he at least gets a practice squad spot. We'll see. As I mentioned before, I like McCrary. Liked him last year, and he crushed it. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But the highest graded player on offense, 82.4, Malik Heath. Absolutely fantastic. I think it solidifies his spot, I would assume, on the 53-man roster. Getting into some of the specifics, as we look at the quarterbacks, obviously not the best thing in the world. Sean Clifford, 42.9% completion percentage, just a 53.8 adjusted completion percentage. 14 attempts for 53 yards, just 3.8 yards per attempt. He's like a running back. He did throw a touchdown, which helped him. As I mentioned, 42.7 overall grade, 43 passing grade. 0 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play. He actually had the same amount of turnover-worthy plays as Michael Pratt. His just didn't get picked. Time to throw was 2.71 seconds. threw 4 first downs, 77.4 passer rating. Michael Pratt, 8 attempts, 66.7 completion percentage, 72.7 adjusted completion percentage, 6.7 yards per attempt, a touchdown, a pick. His passing grade was a 41. He did have one big-time throw, which is 8.3%, which is actually really high, but he also had one turnover-worthy play, and he had a 78.5 passer rating when targeted. I'm going to be bitter about it, but I think Pratt was better than Clifford, and the fact that they both had one turnover-worthy play, I don't think the pick should have been put against him. And actually, I don't know why he's so much lower, because I guess it is just the passing grade, and he had a lower passing grade, which I don't really understand why, but whatever. When we look at pressure, Sean Clifford actually had a 64 PFF grade when kept clean, which was 60% of the time. He was 6 of 9 for 53 yards and a touchdown, which is not terrible. Under pressure, however, is when it gets really ugly. He was 0 of 5 with a turnover-worthy play, 26 PFF grade, 27.2 passing grade. Michael Pratt was actually the opposite somehow. He was 7 of 10 for 76 yards, because of the interception. 7 of 10, 76 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 38.7 PFF grade. He also had his big-time throw in there. Under pressure, which he wasn't very much, probably because he tends to get the ball out pretty quick, but just 16.7%. He was 1 of 2 for 4 yards, so pretty much just dead average because it wasn't that many plays. All right, moving on to the receivers. There was one guy that graded out really well. Bo Melton was fine. He had a 70 PFF grade. He ran 13 routes, was only targeted twice, 1 reception, which was a touchdown. Malik Heath ran 17 routes, was targeted 5 times, caught 4 for 39 yards and a tutty. He actually tied for the most receiving yards. Actually, let's do that. Let's go with routes run. He and Grant DeBose ran the most amount of routes at 17. DeBose just 1 target, 0 receptions. He wasn't listed as having a drop, but still probably not the best. After that was, surprisingly, Samori Toure and Joel Wilson ran the second most amount of routes. Samori Toure on 15 routes, 4 targets, 2 receptions, 28 yards, 69 receiving grade. Joel Wilson ran 15 routes, was targeted 3 times, 2 receptions, 11 yards, 50 PFF grade. Then we get down to Bo Melton, 13 routes run, 2 targets, 1 reception, 18 yards, touchdown, 69 PFF grade. 10 routes for Emmanuel Wilson, getting him in space quite a bit, which is cool. 2 targets, 2 receptions, 26 yards. Ben Sims and Ellis Merriweather ran 8 routes, both of them 1 target, 0 receptions. Then you have, really impressively actually, I don't know how his grade is so low, Dimitri Stanley ran 4 routes. He was targeted 3 times and caught 2 of them for 7 yards. I know the production isn't that great, but how do you run 4 routes and get targeted 3 times on your 4? I mean, every time you're on the field, they're throwing at you. That's pretty impressive, I'm not going to lie. Henry Pearson ran 3 routes, 1 target, 1 reception, 4 yards. Not bad on 3 routes. And then Messiah Swinson only ran 2 routes. He was targeted once and did not catch it. He was not listed as having a drop. The only drop, actually, was Joel Wilson. Slot percentage, just because it's kind of interesting to sort this out. The only guy over 50% was Samori Toure. Shouldn't be super surprising. He's kind of always been that dude. 46% for Bo Melton. They're kind of exploring that, pretty close to 50%. 35% for Joel Wilson, so we're getting into the tight ends. Same with Ben Sims, 27%, and then it's all down from there. Stanley, Pearson, Swinson were at 0. Looking at yards per route run, the 2 guys over 2 yards per route run. Emmanuel Wilson was actually the highest at 2.6. Malik Heath was 2.29, and then it's all down from there. Average depth of target, Grant DeBose 25 yards, Bo Melton 15. Longest reception on the day was actually Emmanuel Wilson, 20 yards. Again, the only drop was Joel Wilson. Contested catches, there were only 2 opportunities. Packers actually did quite well. Bo Melton and Malik Heath. You may remember those. They caught those both. Missed tackles forced, just 2. Dimitri Stanley had 1. Samori Toure had 1. First downs, Malik Heath had 4. That's what I like Malik for, man. He moves the sticks. Passer rating when targeted, Malik Heath 138.8, Bo Melton 120.8, Emmanuel Wilson 118.8. That's great for Emmanuel Wilson. For a guy that's really trying to prove outside of running that he can still hang, that's really, really important. Penalties, we had 2, one on Grant DeBose, one on Bo Melton. Really rough day for DeBose. Running backs, as impressive as I thought they all seemed to me, it was really just Nate McCrary and nobody else. He had a 79 rushing grade. Ellis had a 59. Sean Clifford, the quarterback, and then Emmanuel Wilson was 57. So apparently not massively impressed was PFF. Yards per attempt, Nate McCrary 5.8. Emmanuel Wilson was 4.7. And Merriweather was 4.6. I don't know what the heck you want from these guys. Yards after contact per attempt, 3.91 for Nate McCrary, 3.27 for Emmanuel Wilson, 2.75 for Ellis. McCrary and Emmanuel Wilson forced 3 missed tackles. Longest rush was McCrary's 18-yard scamper. All 3 of them had 2 carries over 10 yards. If you look at the zone versus gap running, Emmanuel Wilson is a pure zone runner, 10 zone carries, 1 gap. And then Ellis Merriweather was 7 and 9, and then Nate McCrary was 6 and 5. So Merriweather, and I said this on the stream too, he seems to be more of a north-south, kind of just open a gap and let him run through it. And, you know, he did have higher than 50% in that direction. So that was pretty interesting. I don't know if that works against him in terms of, being a more zone-based team. Obviously, we mix in a little bit of both, but I don't know if that's going to be a negative against him. Elusiveness grade, 106 for Nate McCrary, 100 for Sean Clifford. There you go. And then finally for the offense, we have the blocking. Let's go position by position here. Kadeem Telfort, it looks like they kind of isolated guys to one position today, at least a little bit more. Wow, really good job on the left side. Holy cow. This is incredible. Kadeem Telfort, 87 pass blocking grade, 75 rush blocking grade. That Kadeem needed that bad. I said before, the Packers seemed to like him, and he really was struggling. That's incredible. However, Caleb Jones, almost identical, 83.2 pass blocking, 76.4 run blocking, a little bit less pass blocking, a little bit better run blocking. Both of these guys absolutely locked it down on that side. At left guard, you had Donovan Jennings, who only played left guard. 71 pass blocking grade, 55 run blocking, pretty standard Packers operation. Lecitus Smith did move around a little bit. He played a ton of snaps overall, mostly at left guard, 49 snaps, 67 pass blocking, 62 run blocking, so not the best day in the world. Jacob Monk, 52 snaps, all at center, 67.1 pass blocking, 59 run blocking, pretty standard Packers stuff. Royce Newman was exclusively a right guard, 86 pass blocking grade and a 60 run blocking. I'm happy with that any day of the week. Also had Luke Tenuta. He actually played mostly right tackle, but it was pretty much 50-50. 13 at right guard, 21 at right tackle. He also did really well, 80 pass blocking grade, 67 run blocking. And then at right tackle, Travis Glover only played right tackle, 71 pass blocking, 77 run blocking. Really, really solid job. So as far as the really good pass blockers, I mean, Jacob Monk, 67, is pretty close to 70. Lecitus Smith, 67. Samori Toure, 71. Travis Glover, 71. Donovan Jennings, 71. Ben Sims, the tight end, 71. Luke Tenuta, 80. Caleb Jones, 83. Royce Newman, 86. Kadeem Telfort with an 87.1. And then run blocking, which the Packers never do well. Luke Tenuta, 67. Ben Sims, tight end, again, really impressive. 70, basically. Kadeem Telfort, 75. Caleb Jones, 76. Travis Glover, 77. And Henry Pearson, the fullback, had only run blocking snaps. He did it 12 times, had a 78 grade. I mean, I don't know what else the guy could do to prove he belongs on this team. But Henry Pearson showed out. Absolutely. Some of the other guys, let's see, who else? Who did a lot of things that didn't grade out? Really nobody. The lowest pass blocking grade of anybody that took 9 or more snaps. So in other words, less than this is 3. So there's nobody that did 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 pass blocking snaps. So 9 or above. The lowest grade was a 67.1 Jacob Monk, which is not a bad grade. So everybody that essentially pass blocked for more than 3 snaps, let's say. Graded out well in pass blocking. Run blocking isn't necessarily the same case. There was a lot of run blocking. Pretty much everybody that did it blocked at least 10 times. In fact, everybody did at least 10. Quite a few bad. The worst was Grant DeBose, unfortunately. He had 18 run blocking snaps, graded out as a 31. Then you had Dimitri Stanley, 47. Julian Hicks, 51. Joel Wilson absolutely was quite terrible. I didn't list him as pass blocking because he only did 2, but he had a 25 pass blocking grade. He allowed a hit on the quarterback with only 2 opportunities to pass block, and he had a 54 grade. Messiah Swinson, 55. Donovan Jennings, 55. And then it's all kind of up from there. So, I mean, overall, really, really solid. Some of these guys, you want to be able to do better, but didn't quite materialize. Nobody gave up a sack. There were 2 hits, one from Joel Wilson, one from Ellis Merriweather. Those guys obviously did not grade out very well pass blocking. Hurries, there were 3. Lasita Smith, Jacob Monk, and Travis Glover each gave up 1. So just 5 pressures. Nobody gave up more than 1 pressure on the day. But why don't we take a break? We'll come back and we will discuss the defense. We'll go over the special teams, and then we'll wrap this up, I think, with a couple calls, because we just have a handful. I don't think we have any new ones, but we got a couple lingering old ones, so we'll probably do that. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/builtforus to get started.
Make this new school year an opportunity for your kids to learn important life skills with Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app for families where kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely, while parents keep an eye on kids' money habits. Greenlight also helps families get into their fall routine with a chores feature that lets parents assign chores and pay kids allowance when they check them off. Get your first month free at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the Vehicle Owner's Manual for important feature limitations and information.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
All right, so the offense was good. The defense is better. Dare I say very good. There was still some bad, though, so we should probably talk about that first. There were 6 players that were below average. Not literally as in like they were all below. I just mean like below a 60. Deslin Alexander, who I thought had a good day. He did have 3 tackles, but I guess they didn't like him. 53. Keontae Shad, 50. Keton Oladapo, 48. Sad, but whatever. Benny Sapp, again, another guy that I liked because I saw him make a couple plays. But again, you make 26. You're off there for 26 plays. I see you on 2 of them. 43.5. LJ Davis continues to stay at the bottom, as does Mr. Raylan Goforth. I made a joke about, we're keeping 89 guys. Sorry, Raylan. Well, he was the lowest graded defensive player on the team. But all right, let's move on to the happies. 10 players were 70 or higher. James Esther had a 70. Keyshawn Banks comes in with a 71. Colby Wooden, 75. No surprise there. Jonathan Ford, 76. Really starting to like that guy. Christian Young, 79.9. Call it an 80. Kalen King, my man, with an 81. Let's go. Jermon Green made a name for himself in that game, 81, and then it really pops off. Chris Russell. No idea who the heck Chris Russell even is. I don't know who that is. Weak side linebacker, 90.3 grade. We'll get into the specifics in a minute. Holy crap. Aaron Mosby, no surprise, 92, and maybe even less of a surprise, Christian Welch with a 94. His highest grade being in coverage. Oh, it's good times. All right, let's go through piece by piece here. Run defense. I won't go through everybody below 60, but the only really bad ones, Raylan Goforth had a 43 run defense grade. Benny Sapp, 29. On the positive side, Brevin Allen, 67. Jermon Green, 70. Anthony Johnson, who, again, I thought had a fantastic day. He struggled with tackling. He had he didn't have a missed tackle, so I don't know why they're mad at him as tackling, but whatever. Anthony Johnson, 72 run defense grade. Keyshawn Banks, 74. Colby Wooden, 76. Tyron Hopper, who I love watching play football, 77. Jonathan Ford, who you expect to have, a run defense grade that's quite high, dominated, 78 PFF grade. And then Chris Russell, freaking whoever that is, 81.5 grade. Tackling, there were some really bad ones. Raylan, 54. Anthony Johnson, 42. James Esther, 28. Deslin, 28. Zane Anderson, 27. Benny Sapp, 21. We'll just go through the 70s here. Zach Morton, Keyshawn Banks, Jonathan Ford, L.J. Davis, Chris Russell, Christian Rung, Jermon Green, Christian Welch, and then the one guy whose tackling grade was an 81, my man, Kalen King. Let's go, Kalen. So jacked. Pass rush grade, basically nothing was good, nothing below a 50. We'll get into the stats in a minute. I'm actually shocked at how few pressures they're saying there were. I guess the ball got out fast or something. I don't know. But Aaron Mosby was the only guy. He's the only guy with a sack on the day. So he had an 85.4 grade. Coverage, just one really bad grade. That was L.J. Davis. On the positive side, Chris Russell, Christian Young, Jermon Green, Kalen King, Jermon Green, 81, Kalen King, 87, Christian Welch, 95. So linebackers kind of stood out here. You got, of the 5 that graded out really well, 3 of them are linebackers. Chris Russell, Christian Young, and Christian Welch. Some names that not on the forefront of anybody's mind. But then the corners, Jermon Green and Kalen King with a near 90 PFF grade. Really, really excited to see that. Just 5 pressures. Again, really shocked by that, which is quite, well, I guess it's not bad. The most pass rush attempts were 12. So you really don't expect more than, between 1 and 2, I guess, is what you'd expect for a good day. But the 5 pressures came from Mosby, Zach Morton, Brenton Cox, Keyshawn Banks, and James Esther. The only sack being Aaron Mosby. Leading tackler, Christian Welch. Missed tackles. 1 from Zane, Deslin, Goforth, Esther, Hopper, and then 2 missed tackles from Benny Sapp. He had 0 tackles and 2 missed tackles, so you understand why he had such a terrible day. I don't know what I thought I saw from Benny Sapp. I thought I saw him lay in the wood or something, but apparently my eyes are deceiving me. That or PFF is known to make some mistakes once in a while, getting wrong numbers or whatever, but whatever, I'll trust their graders. Stops, so negative plays for the offense, tackles that are negative grade for the offense. Guys that had 1 stop, Mosby, Goforth, Allen, Russell, and Shad. Guys with 2, AJJ, Carl Brooks, Jermon Green, Colby Wooden, Tyron Hopper. And guys with 3, Christian Welch, Deslin Alexander, and Kalen the Man King. Forced fumbles, Aaron Mosby and Kalen King. Getting into coverage stats, targeted just once, Zane Anderson, Aaron Mosby, Anthony Johnson, Ketan Oladapo, and Tyron Hopper. The only receptions were against Tyron Hopper and Anthony Johnson. Hopper's one was a little bit brutal, which maybe hurt him a little bit. It was 48 yards for a touchdown, so they blamed him for that apparently. Anthony Johnson had 1 for 6 yards. Then guys that got targeted twice, you got Goforth, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 11 yards. Jermon Green, 2 targets, 1 reception, 9 yards. L.J. Davis, 2 targets, 1 reception, 5 yards. Chris Russell, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 10 yards. Christian Welch was targeted 3 times. 1 was caught for 5 yards. He had a pick and a pass breakup, so a 2.8 passer rating. Don't even try to pass on Christian Welch. Frickin' idiots. And then Kalen King was the most targeted. 5 targets, 3 receptions for 13 yards, 64.6 passer rating when targeted. Other guys that were in coverage a decent amount that were not targeted at all. Corey Ballantyne, 8 snaps. Benny Snap, 10 saps. So there you go. Then we got special teams. Guys that graded out poorly. This is such a classic Green Bay Packers thing. Ready? Lowest graded, Matt Orzech, 39.7 grade. It's every time. And by the way, I am blaming him for that missed field goal because why else in the world would he grade this low? I mean, it could have something to do with him running down the field trying to tackle people, but I don't care. I'm blaming him. The only other one below a 50 was Christian Young. On the positive side, Emmanuel Wilson, 70.2. That's separate from his kickoff return grade where he had less than a 60. Jermon Green, 74. He really put on a show, man, for a guy trying to make a team or at least a practice squad. Brenton Cox, 75. Same for him. Christian Welch, 76. LJ Davis, 77. Second highest. Too bad it's probably not going to save him. And Ellis Merriweather, 78. PFF grade on special teams. And then on the returns, nothing super special, but we had everybody rated about a 60 because nothing special happened. But Dimitri Stanley had 2 returns, nothing to show for any of them. Samori Toure had 1 return. This is kickoffs I'm talking about, for nothing. And Emmanuel Wilson, 1 return for 29 yards, pretty solid. On the punt side of it, Dimitri Stanley, again, they're really giving him a solid chance there, number 19. 2 returns, 19 yards. 11 yards was his longest, 9.5 yards per attempt. Samori Toure also had 1 punt return for 7 yards, and that is about that. So, anyways, a lot of really good tape put on for some guys, especially Welch and whoever Chris Russell is, Jr. Really proud of you there, Chris. I don't know why I see Russell and I think Kurt Russell. Is that the only Russell in the world? It's Chris Russell. Oh, I wonder if it's like Kurt Russell. No, it's not. Anyways, let's take our final break. We'll come back, take a few calls, and get up out of here.
Ryan, Fat Albert calling. It's been a minute since I
Albert.
called in, so thanks for keeping the energy in the off season. Appreciate it.
Man.
Just wanted to add some insight. I was up at training camp yesterday, managed to get some sideline passes, which was super cool. And if you ever get the chance to do that, I would highly recommend it. Anyhow, some things that I saw. First on Jordan, the thing that I think I noticed more than anything is receivers weren't hesitating on their routes.
Sure.
And he was hitting them in stride, full stride all the time, which I think was a little bit different. Like last season, he seemed at times, they're a little bit behind him, not always necessarily perfectly on target. Man, he was a razor. Could have been just a good day. Second thing was on the kicking game. The one thing that, I know Joseph had a bad day, but ultimately there was a little bit of wind. And I think, him being an indoor kicker probably had something to do with it, but probably cements the case for Anders' point, to your point. Then last one was just got really up and close with watching the O-line drill and tons of focus on hands and feet. And holy cow, is Caleb Jones a big human being. I mean, he is just
so
big. And watching him hit after getting coached up, fixing his hand positions, fixing his feet, holy cow, this guy could be a monster.
Yeah.
But any event, thanks again for everything. And I just thought I'd provide that and get your reactions. Thanks, man. Bye.
Yeah, appreciate that. That's the other cool thing about this show is, again, I'm for the most part just somebody talking about stuff. And for the most part, we're all just random people just giving our opinions. But there's a lot of Packer fans that get the opportunity to do a lot of cool stuff, even if that just means I was out tailgating this past time, or I did the tour, or I was at the game, or I'll be at the game, or I got sideline passes. So, yeah, it's cool to be able to get the perspective. And I do think it makes a big difference when you get, especially up close and personal, and get to see these guys, how absolutely massive they are. That was one of the things I mentioned. Everybody keeps talking about how amazing our punter looks, and I'm sure he does. I mean, by all accounts, he's doing a really good job, but there's something different about being up close and personal and actually seeing how insane it is to see an NFL punter kick a ball, the sound that it makes, and actually watching how that thing soars up in the air, it's just such a cool thing to be able to actually witness it. And same with Caleb. I mean, you can read the stats and be like, oh yeah, 6'9", 380 pounds or something, just absolutely obscene. But when you get to see that in person, and you hear that all the time when like reporters will say that, like, he's big, but not really know until you get up next to him. So anyways, man, it's good to hear from you. Obviously, haven't heard from you in a while, so hope you're doing well. Glad you got to do that, and no doubt about it, if anybody ever offers me sideline passes, I will have to make an exception to my I don't do things rule.
Hey, Ryan, this is Travis from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Just calling to let you know, Chris Long just came out with a pod that he just did with Rashawn Gary, Tay Wicks, and somebody else, but he ended up asking Rashawn, they ended up getting into about who he had modeled his play after, who he studied film on, somebody similar to him. And then his follow-up question for Rashawn was, is there anybody that you respect that you've played, whether it be a couple times a season or just once in your career, somebody that stood out? And Rashawn just hesitates and, no. Man is just too tough. Nobody intimidates him. Just one of my favorite defensive players we have, and just love the intensity. So excited to see what he brings this year. Go Pack Go.
Reminds me of Mike Daniels. I remember he did like a live chat, and the whole thing with Mike Daniels is he's a tough guy. He's a legit tough guy, but also a big talker. And everybody just wanted to ask, like, who do you think who's the toughest guy and all that stuff? Who could beat you in a fight or whatever? And it was always, so who's like the toughest guy on the team? Me, no question. Like, if you got into a fight, who's the last guy you'd want to fight? And he's just like, anybody, I'll fight any of them or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just down to the last question. Every single time he wouldn't budge. He wouldn't give anything. There was nothing like, well, this guy no, it's just me. I'm that dude. Period. There's nobody else on this team that can mess with me. So, yeah, it's kind of cool to have Rashawn. More or less, it's not so much that I look up to someone. It's I am that dude. You know what I mean? So, and he is. I think he is. I'm excited to hopefully get to see the best of him. We've seen some really good Rashawn Gary, but whether it be him being stuck behind somebody or injuries or whatever the case may be, it's very similar to Jair, where it's like he peaked and then he had injury issues, and it's like, come on, man, we need Rashawn back, and now everything seems perfect. If he can stay healthy with this defensive scheme and everything, I think there's going to be some really special stuff going on.
Hey, Ryan, it's Garrett from Southern Illinois.
What up?
Just wanted to point something out just as we're heading into final week before the last preseason game. And I really wanted to point out something that I find it more and more impressive as it goes on, that we have on the team 4 7th-round draft picks that are actually have been contributing this preseason.
Yeah.
One that's a starter at left tackle.
Yeah.
Another one at cornerback that we drafted this year. Then we have, Grant DuBose, drafted last year, 7th round. And the fourth one, now it's going to elude me. I knew that was going to happen. Maybe you can help me out here. Yeah. But there are 4 guys that have been contributing their 4th round picks. And I just,
7th, yeah.
I'm getting more and more impressed with the fact that these guys do not give up when they're drafting, even in the 7th round. They are looking hard at guys, and I don't know how many teams have 4 7th-round draft picks that are on the team that are contributing. That'd be just a good question to pose at you. It's like I would have a hard time believing that there's anybody that has 4 7th-round draft picks that are playing. Not contributing a lot, but they are playing. So it's not that they're on the practice squad, but they're actually out there playing a little bit. So hats off to Goody on that one. I just wanted to point that out as just a out of the left field topic. But I felt like it was well deserved to be highlighted because, we've got a left tackle who's protecting Love that we picked in the 7th round in Walker. So go figure. That's the Packer way, it seems like. So let's carry it. I'm out.
Well, Gutekunst has completely changed my entire philosophy on 7th-round picks. I just had no... I did a whole thing probably 2 years ago on just the fact that it doesn't pan out. Everybody wants to go to Donald Driver. It's like, okay, Donald Driver and then who? It's nobody, dude. There's nobody. 7th-round picks don't work. 6th-round picks basically don't work. The Packers crush the 4th round. Maybe you get like a 5th or 6th or something. You get something maybe, but probably not, right? And then now, like you said, look at what's going on. We have a legit left tackle. You say, well, technically he was like an earlier guy, but he had an injury problem. First of all, that stuff happens all the time. There was another guy we had from Alabama several years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I brought this up before. He's, I think, a pass rusher or a linebacker from Alabama. It was the same thing. And honestly, Brenton Cox is kind of the same. Those things happen all the time. The tight end that we had who had serious off-the-field issues that we brought in, it still doesn't end up working out. It's very common that guys with issues of one stripe or another end up having issues and falling. But that doesn't mean they're going to be good. In fact, it almost always still ends up meaning they're not very good. And not just because they're, injuries or whatever crop up. No, they don't pan out. So, it's really unbelievable. And it doesn't even matter that we're not talking all pro, because I don't care. I'm very satisfied with the sort of high-level backup, maybe mid to low-end starter quality that you get from a guy like Carrington Valentine. The certainly starter quality, whether you want to call it mid or low-end starter quality that you're getting from Walker at a premier position. The emergence of Anthony Johnson Jr. to the point where you felt like safety was kind of resolved, where he was going to end up being, number 4 or 5 or whatever. Now it's like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. If nothing else, I feel good about him as a backup. So yeah, we've got some serious talent that has emerged in the 7th round. We'll see what DeBose can become. Seemed like he had a couple weeks of looking real good, and then it didn't quite pan out. But at the same time, we'll see. I think more than likely he's going to get stashed, but we'll see. I think he certainly took a step, and maybe next year could be a year where he takes another step. But either way, yeah, I'm impressed with the quality that we've been getting. We've seen also, again, 5th round guys, several 5th round Packers picks. Obviously, 4th round, we've seen some 6th round guys pan out. Yeah, it's awesome, because not everybody pans out. You get a 2nd round guy like Josh Myers or A.J. Dillon, which, obviously they're still starters, but it maybe doesn't seem like it's going to be a long-term thing or a super high-level thing. Well, you make up for that with 7th round guys that can play. So, yeah, really, really exciting stuff. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. You guys have a good rest of your day. Tomorrow we've got to start really hammering in on this 53-man roster deal. So, anyways, I'll leave you guys with that. Have a good one. Bye-bye.